you.
Um, Good evening again. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties, so we're gonna resume with Mastermind giving the presentation. And yeah, we can go from there.
Okay. Good evening again. My name is Ron Schulman, Best Development Group. We're representing Mastermind. We'll get into the specifics of this project called King Square, which is located at 222 East 3rd Street. Radame Perez is here, who is the principal of Mastermind. He'll give a brief introduction of Mastermind, who they are, and also a little bit of the history of the site, and then we'll get into the specifics.
Good evening, esteemed members of the City Council. See some friends in the room. So my name is Radame Perez, and I'm third generation in a family business that is dedicated itself to developing communities in New York City. We've also developed locations in Newark, and now we are actually looking at Bergen County as well, and many properties that we've developed in the Bronx. I'm here. I welcome the opportunity to be able to speak to you about a really exciting project, a really transformative project. And as president of a company that's committed itself to doing transformative, sustainable development projects that add to economic growth and that create vibrant communities, I think we're really excited to be moving forward on a site, or at least to propose to move forward on a site that we've been actively involved with this city on, from the re-envisioning of 3rd Street into a mixed-use zone to clean up some of the industrial uses that have left this side of Mount Vernon dormant for many years. We put our money where our mouth is because we didn't just think of a plan for this, but also contributed to and financed the rezoning here. We've owned the property for 20 years. And so in a lot of ways, this has not been, we're not here parachuting into Mount Vernon. We have a number of other properties that we own here. We feel like this is our backyard, and we're proud of our longstanding relationship with the city of Mount Vernon through many administrations. Today, we're talking about what we call King Square. Very appropriate that we call it King Square, not just because it is on East 3rd Street, also known as MLK, but also on the day following Martin Luther King Jr.'s day. I think this project does something that's very transformative because it goes beyond the brick and mortar. It's about creating opportunity. It's about addressing housing shortages. It's about fostering a brighter future for this city and for its residents. And so at the core, I think, I'll let Ron get into some of the specifics, but at the core, what we're trying to do here is provide much needed affordable housing for working families, for individuals that are striving to build something better. We think that it reinvigorates a park on the corner here that has been called many names, many of them not so warm and fuzzy. And we're offering a modern, energy efficient, accessible design to enhance this corner. I think that what we're also proposing here is something that will stimulate the local economy, create jobs, construction jobs, but also long-term economic activity. And I hope that the city council sees that our vision aligns with Mount Vernon's own vision for growth and inclusivity, because this project prioritizes that kind of community integration. I'll let Ron talk about the AMIs. And we also have here, we're joined by Newman Architects, a firm with extensive experience in designing multifamily development projects of this kind. And I'll come back at the end to kind of wrap up and share with you why I think I'm so passionate about what we're doing here.
Thank you, Radame. So what we propose here is a 10-story building, which would be approximately 225 apartments. We'll get into the mix sizes of the apartments and the AMIs. But as Radame said, we've worked on at least 5 projects that we've completed in the Bronx, ranging from 54 units to 256 units of mixed income housing in the Bronx over the last, I think, 16 years or 17 years. The project will have green building initiatives of low E insulated glass with thermal breaks, solar panels, Energy Star rated appliances, high efficiency controlled heating units, efficient lighting, all the rest of the things to make this qualified for whether it's passive house or high standards of a green building. The building itself will be proposed to be financed through tax exempt bonds and tax credits, but we want it to be mixed income, and we understand that the council wants a wide array of AMIs, which we're trying to achieve. So we're probably going to have a mix of around the 50 up to the 90% of AMI at this wide band. If you look at that in dollars and cents, it's income-wise, it's about 55,000 up to 150,000. So you're basically talking about this wide swath of income for all different sizes of homes and households, and those rents would equate from, the low 1,000s up to over 3,000. So basically, you're talking about a building that would have studios 1s, 2s, 3s, and there would be again, apartments in all different income groups. Again, the highest would be about 90, and the top rents would be $2,300 to $3,500. A large percentage of the apartments will be those standard, $1,200 to $2,200 apartment rent, or $2,600 rent. But in a marketing sense, we want to accomplish housing for as many types of people as possible, and we'll test the market. if the market is deeper or richer, we can do more units on the higher side. But we have this kind of even distribution of units right now between all the different income bands. And that's our, initial working proposal to present to the council. We're happy to answer any questions. The architect is here too, Keith Siebold of Newman Design. If you have any specific questions about the building, there will also be parking underneath this building because it's, as you guys know, or maybe not know, there's a depression here and that will be a parking garage. And then the building will rise above the parking garage. I think there's over 140 parking spaces. The financing, again, is many, many sources with tax exempt bonds and subsidy from the state, other subsidy programs from Westchester County, and developer equity as well. So we wanted to give you this kind of broad brush draft view of this project. Again, about 225, 226 units. And also a retail, ground floor retail, there is a space. Let me look up how big that is. About 3,800 square feet of retail on the ground floor and about 150 parking spaces. So, Madam Chair, that's our proposal. We wanted to have this discussion with you and give you the broad brush view of this building that we're proposing. Happy to answer any questions and hear your feedback.
Thank you. Council members? Councilwoman Gleason?
Good evening and thank you for being here. I had just a couple of questions. Okay, there's definitely going to be on-site parking. You said 150 spaces?
Approximately.
140?
Good evening. Keith Siebold with Newman Design.
Can you come to the
Into the mic.
microphone and identify yourself, please?
Hi, Keith Siebold with Newman Design. I work for the architect of record.
Okay.
The question was, how many parking?
How many,
spots?
you have to speak into the microphone. Yes, 100, how many?
There'd be 148 parking spots on 2 levels.
148,
148, yes, ma'am.
2 levels on site under the building?
Yes, all underneath the building. 81 spots in the cellar and 67 spaces on the first floor.
Okay. I had a question for the building owner, if you don't mind. So you've owned the property for, what did you say, over 20 years?
So I said 20 years to be exact. It's 2007. I'm going to tell you right now. So May 2007. So
May 2007,
close to 20 years.
okay. Once you purchased it, did you have to do any environmental?
Yes, we did it after.
You did it after the
Yes.
purchase?
Yes.
Does this project require any further environmental?
No, there's nothing beyond the phase 1.
And how come there's been a delay on that property? On any?
Development of it?
Yeah, I'm just curious, only because
Yeah.
it's empty, so, and is that the property that's got the structure?
So there was a structure there. There's no longer the structure.
Right, that was, the
This was-
facade fell, right?
Yeah. So this was the old Boston Westchester Railroad. It was a stop on the old Boston Westchester Railroad line. And similar to the Westchester Mall, that was a stop on that rail line. And through the rezoning process, we committed to memorializing that in some way in the lobby. And so we've got ideas about how we're going to do that. We've done that in other older buildings other sites that we wanted to recapture and memorialize the historic value of what was standing there previously. As it relates to why we haven't developed anything yet, we've been looking to rezone this, and the process is, we've never been stagnant. We have, since we bought this property, we've continually had conversations with mayors that have been here. Ernie Young, right? Am I mentioned Dave? Yeah, Ernie Davis, sorry. Ernie Davis, going back to him, and then thereafter. Clinton Young? Hampton, yeah, and then.
Okay, so
yeah,
that's the
I can name a
property-
few.
Just to get clarity, that's the property next door to the AAC club?
Yes, exactly. It actually wraps, so it starts it starts right next door to the AC Club and wraps all the way down and around Fulton. So it wraps around the park.
I got you. Okay. So I was thinking of another property, so forgive me.
Same.
Are there any, are you gonna purchase the AAC club?
We've
So I
had
know-
conversations
Uh-huh.
with him. Again, there's been a long history with this site here. Frankly, he's not interested in selling.
Gotcha. That's all the questions I have, at this point.
Thank you, Councilman Gleason. Any other council members? Councilman Boxell?
Does this about the train line? Does this, the train construction going on, I mean, the line, remediation, does that affect your project in any?
No, it's no longer, there's no rail, there's no track, there's nothing there.
Okay. Right. But that's across the street from you guys, right?
Yeah, it's in front.
Okay. All right, that was it.
So I think you bring up a very good point, if you don't mind, Council President.
Sure.
So that is along the area that is shut down now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a very good question for you. But I have to think about how to present it, so just give me a few minutes.
Any other council members? So, have you all gone before the IDA to get their thoughts on project?
There's aspects of this project that have been started and stopped. We had a conversation with the ADA many years ago at this point, just before COVID, actually. And we're prepared to restart those conversations.
Yes, I would definitely recommend, especially it looks like you guys will be looking for a pilot, to meet with them concurrently, to see what their thoughts are. I know they have a new process on how they're negotiating pilots or approving pilots. I would definitely recommend, that. Can you speak to me about the green initiatives in the building?
So we're looking to meet Enterprise Green Communities and we're going to subscribe to their initiative.
Okay.
Yes, so Enterprise Green Communities establishes certain criteria for the amount of insulation, the energy efficiency of windows, the energy efficiency of the heating equipment, goes into the appliances all have to be Energy Star. Also, green roofs would be a part of this, as well as solar panels. And electrical vehicle charging stations would also be incorporated.
Councilman Potteet? Councilman Potteet, can you put your mic on?
Sure.
Can you repeat yourself?
Sure can. Commissioner Rouse, does this project fall within the MX2 zone or is it outside the district?
It does fall within the MX1, yes,
MX1.
yes.
So this project isn't here for rezoning. Is it going, is it following the MX1 zoning text?
To a large degree, yes, since the project is still in its early stages. The applicant, I know, wanted just to present to, you know, introduce or reintroduce themselves to the council and get feedback and hopefully approval to that this is the type of project you want to see there. We've been working with them and have kept them informed about the comprehensive plan, which how we've extended it, the boundary of the first phase of the comprehensive plan stops across the street. from this property and is a little different than what the MX1 requirements are. The MX1 actually allows for a taller project at this site for up to 12 stories and slightly higher parking requirements as current.
Wondering, getting back to zoning is, could the developers just follow MX1 and push forward, or is there a reason why they couldn't just follow the MX1 zone that we have in place now?
Because there's elements of the project which I'll let them talk about that they maybe need some potential variances or.
Can you speak into the microphone? I
Oh,
can't
am
hear
I
you. I'm
not?
sorry.
Yeah, they may not, there may be some elements of the project that, may need certain approvals along the way. So like with site plan, planning board. Things like
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess you heard the preliminary question. Can you speak to why this project couldn't be done as of right in the MX1 zone? area?
Well, my understanding of, one, the amount of units, I believe we could only build about 176. And we want to go a little bit above that, for economic reasons, to 226.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, sir.
So the amount of units, we would like to build a little bit more. I believe that 176 would be the MX1 zoning. We'd like to go to 226 apartments, just for financial reasons. Also parking, we're a little bit under. So we would want a relaxation of that as well. Again, nothing more than I believe has been previously granted for other projects in the community.
But what's the ratio of that you're proposing, and what is MX1 ratio?
I don't have that right in front of me. But if it was an straight MX1, I believe we'd probably need about 80 more spots. And we're proposing 148. And keep it in mind, I know you're familiar with the site, but we are a half mile away from the railroad line.
And just one other question about parking, so that and sorry for not knowing this, that the parking ratio under MX1 is more than 1?
I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but
So we confirmed today the ratios for parking studios, it's 0.5. At 1 bedrooms, 0.75, and 2 bedrooms and more, 1 for MX1. And so for the comprehensive plan, they are slightly lower.
That doesn't sound like 80 more spots then. That sounds like less than that, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you have to check the numbers. Can we get back to you on that? Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, it's not, I remember that this was not necessarily the most ambitious of requests for easing of parking. But yes, we want to be mindful that it does reduce the parking count. The fact that we find this neighborhood to be the kind of change neighborhood that would be accommodating of a much more pedestrian friendly environment, being just a few, maybe 7-minute walk from the Metro North station there. We think, again, that was the argument that we made early on for moving this from an industrial zone to an MX zone to begin with.
Do you guys have any pictures, any preliminary like renderings, or I'm trying to like picture it. It said 10 stories and with 226.
Send that email.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you?
Yes, please.
Yeah, because is this one structure?
This
or-
is one structure, yes. I'm gonna pull it up. Yep. That's it.
this would be the view from Third Avenue. again, as Radame discussed, 10 stories.
From Third Street? This is the view from Third Street?
This is the view from Third Street. You can see the
Okay.
club right next to it. Again, 10 stories, 226 units. Bottom portion of the building would be the residential lobby on this elevation, a small retail establishment, and also the entrance to the parking garage to the cellar on the left-hand side. I think there was one more view. Right, this is the view from South Fulton. To the bottom, to the left is retail, again, establishment, keeping the line of activity with the windows, and also entrance to the parking garage on the first floor to the right. And to the left, you can see the park, South Park, to the left.
Is there open space?
There would be open space right behind the park. We have a very generous, probably about 200 feet by 30 feet wide, open area for the residents.
And does the building have any community space?
Yes, we would have a community space on the second floor for the residents, and also additional outside space over the parking garage on the first floor.
Council members?
What was I know I heard something about solar panels. What's the plan for the rooftop other than solar?
It would either be solar or mechanical equipment on the main roof. On the lower roof of the parking garage, we would keep that open, for the residents of the building.
Okay.
So
Are there-
additional outside space?
Are there any terraces anywhere on this dwelling or no?
No,
Okay,
not private terraces.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess I do have. Can you speak to like the square footage of the units, like the studio, one bedroom?
Sure. A studio would be on average 460 square feet.
Is it 460?
Yeah, 460. One bedroom average would be about 625.
Okay.
A two bedroom would be about 800. And a three bedroom average would be about 925 square feet.
Okay.
Councilman Thompson?
I love the facade, the look of this building, but now I'm hearing the numbers. I'm like, these are like shoeboxes. So that gives me a little concern with the size of the apartment itself. When we think about elevators, what does that look like? How many elevators within a
We would have 3 elevators.
3 elevators? Okay, 3 elevators. Yeah, the size of the units concerns me a little bit because I know it sounds like,
I do understand, but, doing a lot of affordable and even market rate residences in this, the city, the outer boroughs, they are quite generous.
yeah, because Manhattan is used to living in shoeboxes, a studio for 3,000. And you probably open your bedroom door and drop onto the bed.
Right.
But
Well,
in Westchester County, they want a little space
well,
because.
it's always the trade-off, how many housing units do you want? Of course, we can make the units larger, but, we're providing less units, and as we all know, housing is, a shortage. big
Yeah,
time.
because housing in Mount Vernon, specifically, being born and raised here, we're family oriented, right? And when you think about having your children or even having your parents live with you or some sort, and have to be on top of each other because there's no space to have your own space to do things. And then when you think about having some greenery on a rooftop to have some escape to get a woosah moment and things of that nature. So the size of the apartments just concerned me a little bit. I think the facade of the dwelling is awesome. I think it would be beneficial because that area has been blighted for so long. And when you think of safety concerns, what it looks like now, having a dwelling there like this would definitely make it safer in that area. And I love any project that would like to come to the south side because everyone loves to run to the north side, but I would love development on the south side of our areas. However, like I said, the size of the apartments give me a little bit concerned. And then although city council does not approve pilots, what kind of pilots would you be asking for?
So let me just talk about the size of the apartments. We can certainly look at the design and share floor plans with you and maybe make these apartments a little bit larger. I hear where you're coming from. I do. But I failed to mention the distribution that Keith and his team have come up with so far. So right now, there's proposed to be 17 studios, 83 one-bedrooms, 108 two-bedrooms, and 18 three-bedrooms. So that's 126 2- and 3-bedroom apartments for families. So 126 out of the 226 is a pretty generous thing. But what we'll do is we'll go back and look at the designs that we've laid out. It's preliminary. If we can make them larger, we will. We will. The pilot, obviously, we'd have to have a long-term pilot that, similar that's been offered to other projects in the city that would be commensurate with financing, because we're going to be looking for 30 to 35-year bonds, and we'd have to have a pilot that works with the financing. However it's structured, I know there's always a payment and then there's escalation clauses and so on, but it's a long-term pilot we're looking for.
Councilman Gleason?
I did not hear you say what the square footage of the 3 bedrooms were.
The 3 bedrooms, on average is 925 square feet. And again, and primarily this building is mostly twos, and
Okay.
then two
Well,
bedroom units
clearly.
are, 800 because once you get into like a 3-family building, usually you move out, from the house and, property. So the two bedroom units are in my opinion, pretty generous, 800 square feet.
And how many school-age children did you guys predict for this project?
That has not been, we haven't not had an environmental report done yet, but we'll get that number for you.
And just for clarity purposes, you said you're looking for a 30-year long-term mortgage, what have you? Or you're looking for a pilot for that length of time also?
A pilot that is commensurate with the long-term mortgage, because I know there's going to be a pilot payment, whatever that pilot payment is. And then I know there's escalation clauses with as the pilot goes out in the years, but it has to run what we think is coterminous with the mortgage financing, which is provided by the state of New
Okay.
York.
Thank you. That's all, Madam President.
Council members, are we good? If we can have, thank you, gentlemen, for coming out. We'll have our attorney come up and just wrap up what next steps
Okay,
are.
thank you so much and stay warm.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. So just to summarize, so the applicant wanted to come before the council tonight to make this initial concept presentation and get some informal feedback. I think you've all provided that, so I trust the applicant is pleased with the comments tonight and the informative feedback that it received. The next step would be for the applicant to discuss the feedback received tonight with the planning department to talk about any potential next steps. There's no commitments, there's no votes, nothing's happening tonight. This is all an informal conceptual presentation.
Thank you
Madam-
very much.
Madam President, I just have a quick question for the planning commissioner. If I could
Sure.
ask him to come up?
Go for it.
I also think it's important for the developer to just hear this out. So I'm looking at this project on Google Maps, and that's right at that section of where we have the issue with the bridge and it not being supported. And DPW has gone out for the bridge grant to repair that bridge, which is literally at the edge of this project at Langdon. So my concern is the underpinning of this project and the length of time it would take to repair the bridge, which I would assume that underneath this project, I think, it's a big hole at this point, right?
Yes,
Okay, so they'll be building a foundation going up.
correct.
Is it dug out to the bottom of the bridge, the foundation, like,
Yeah, the tunnel goes underneath the bridge, and that was the major issue. We had toured it over 2 years ago. Just did a walkthrough, and it extends, under the
but
property.
that part of the tunnel, has that been dug out for this project?
I can't, I have not seen that for this project
Does
specifically.
the
since
developer
then,
know?
So they would need to.
Mr. Perez? So just to have you both stand there, because I don't want anybody to have any misunderstanding here, because there's a safety issue in that area because of the tunnel, right? So I'm not familiar beyond Third Street, like right where your project is. Okay, so the tunnel goes, I see that there's a big hole there.
Goes under full.
Okay, so my question is, if you're building on top of this, does it undermine anything that had to do with this tunnel? And could there be a potential hazard? Or are you digging that part of the tunnel out, or it doesn't infiltrate you whatsoever?
No, right, we're not touching the tunnel area. We're not going underneath there. We're leaving that that.
But are you building on top of that?
We are building towards towards the street line of Third Street. And then we're way in front of that underpass.
Okay. And this will be the last question. Are you familiar with the work that's being done on that bridge there?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we-
you know
we
that the length
facilitate.
of time it could take for you to potentially build your project?
Yeah, I
That it
mean,
could-
right, so
It
one
could
is,
be 3 years from now?
I wasn't aware that it was 3 years.
No,
out.
but I'm just saying a bridge project can go anywhere, like we haven't even started. That construction has not even started in that area there. So I just want to make sure you understand, because I don't see that starting for at least maybe within the 12 months. And that could extend you another 2 years beyond that. And that's just speculatory. I just wanted to make you understand that there's major construction that's going to be going on there.
I appreciate you bringing that to my
Okay.
attention.
All right, I'm done.
Councilman-
Thank you.
Sure. Councilman Potteet?
Thank you, Council President, since I had the commissioner up and Radame. That I just want to go on record and talk about pilots for 1 second. Obviously, the city of Mount Vernon is loath to give pilots for any number of reasons. Something to think about for this development and then others. Pilots extend 30 years. I'm putting my finance hat on for a second. Pilots extend 30 years. That has a present value number. There might be a possibility of funding that present value today, because then it's apples to apples. And obviously, with any affordable housing development, there's no money in year 5 or 7 or 8, but there's a lot of money in year 0. So fitting that present value into your budget may not be as painful as you think, and then may make it a lot easier for the city to say, okay, we're being funded for this. Why don't we give it? Because then it's dollar to dollar equal if you look at the present value calculations around it. Just something to think about. And then as you're talking to other developers, something that you should have them think about, which is what is the present value of that tax benefit? And then can they fund it upfront, potentially?
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Running an NPV. Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Awesome.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Gleason.
and I promise this will be,
No, you can ask
Councilman
as many as you
Potteet.
want.
So if that was $200,000 over 20 years, that money would be paid upfront rather than be extended.
Can
Right,
you
so,
say that again with the mic on?
I'm sorry. Yes, but using a present value calculation.
So there would be no percentage increase over the course of years where a 20-year pilot, let's say, would so you would just use today's present value?
it could be structured in any number of ways, but what the developers are asking for is relief over time, right? But dollars in year, and not to get too wonky about this, but dollars in year 18 are worth less than dollars in year 1.
Okay.
Affordable housing developers have a hard time generating dollars in the out years. That's why they're asking for the benefit. But they have a lot of ways to generate dollars today.
Okay.
And they could hypothetically say, okay, we're gonna, versus this project costing $50 million, it'll cost us $55 million, right? But then we'll give that $5 million check to the city to pay for the pilot that we want in the out years. And that's actually easier than saying, you know, paying taxes in year 18 or 15 or.
I got you.
10. That's
Thank you so much. That's it. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Any other council members have comments? Awesome. Thank you again, gentlemen, for coming out. Appreciate the presentation. And we're gonna move on to, we have another presentation today by the Buildings Department. We're gonna move on to that presentation. Commissioner Holder, the floor is yours.
All right, good evening.
Uh,
Council President, council members. My name is, Patrick Holder. I'm Commissioner of Buildings. I'm here with my first deputy, it's Heidi Mamick. And we're gonna put together a presentation at the request of council on for the overall performance of 2024 of the Mount Vernon Building Department. The agenda will cover, introduction, performance matrix, and the DOB 2024 performance numbers. Next. Okay, the presentation provides insight into DOB's operational and organizational efficiency by sharing results on our performance and productivity measures from the 2024 financial year. Just a little historical context. Prior to 2023, we received about 170 applications per month. After the event of adding the systems of OpenGov systems launched in the end of 22, that increased it to about 200 applications coming in per month, which is about a 15% increase in our applications. The council asked us to put together these matrix on these 16 items you see in front of you. Again, the majority of the data was drawn from OpenGov, which has now given us the ability to look at numbers like this. Understand that two major items contributed mostly to change some of the efficiencies post 2022. One, OpenGov, as I mentioned, was launched. And secondly, outsourcing. Outsourcing has enabled us to stay the course on a lot of our inspection work and plan examination work. Okay, so let's start with metrics number 1. First response to initial applications without plans. I want to clarify that. Initial applications without plans. Basically, this is generally the clerks looking at things, and these are a lot of our applications. I think what, about 60% or so, yeah, come in without plans. So a lot of times these can generally move a little faster because there's not a long review time on this.
So Commissioner, let me just make sure I understand. You're saying that plans aren't required for these types of applications?
These types of applications,
Okay.
exactly, Council President. So what we've done, because the numbers would be too great for my staff to run these in this amount of time. So we used a baseline from, you know, sometimes 10 applications, 20 applications, randomly selected. So in this case, we randomly selected 10 applications, and the average time for initial review on OpenGov is roughly about 7 days. And when I say days, we're always talking about business days, 7 business days. DOB staff members takes about 1 to 29 days to conduct an initial review. It takes 42 days for the application to respond to the initial review comments, which varies from 1 to 3 months. So there's factors other than just the Department of Buildings. While we might take 7 days to 10 days, as I like to tell them, it takes about 10 business days to do our review. You know, after we review it, it goes to the architect or the engineer. And on average, we're getting responses within about 41 days later on average.
I'm not sure I'm following you, Commissioner. So you're saying that this metric, the data that you have up here without plans, you're saying that this is randomly selected applications?
Yeah, 10 randomly selected applications.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you're saying the average the average time for initial review is
7 business days.
7 business days. And I see 4 applications here where there was a 1-day response.
Mhm.
Who's responsible for picking the random applications?
The OpenGov. We just.
They just
Yeah.
selected
select
10
yeah,
applications?
Yeah.
DC, I would need you to come to the mic.
Heidi Mamak, Deputy Commissioner of Building Department. These are selected applications from the systems. We can see several of them received the initial review in 1 day, but one of them we have in here is in 29 days, and that was addressed with the staff member. We received all these 10 applications from OpenGov, and the average of those reviews adds up to 7.4, and that's 7 days, which is in the targeted time frame of 10 business days.
Okay, so I find it odd that 4 of the applications have 1 day, but so I guess moving forward from this point forward, is there someone in your office who's going to keep track of this initial response time so that we don't do a random selection for next month's presentation? Can we do it based on the applications we received in January?
Yes, we can, but I'll get to that because, again, we don't have an analysis, somebody who does this kind of analysis. I have to pull staff to do these things.
Right, but
So-
these are metrics that like leadership should be going off of, right? To see whether or not we're providing good service to the constituents.
Mhm.
So you do have, so we've freed up time for the office manager, right? Is the
Right.
office manager not
Yeah,
able to pull this
The
information?
office manager moving forward, will be looking at these things.
Okay.
Mhm.
You can continue, I'm sorry.
All right. Now, we'll go over the metrics for number 1 again, but in this case, we're first response to initial applications with plans. Again, we selected 10, and you can see, just clarify that this is in-house and with outsourcing group, and the average was again 7 business days. And in terms of the applicant or their architect or engineer, sometimes, these things are taking a long time. So we're looking at an average of these 10 of about 98 days for them to respond to the initial comments. At times, an applicant can have about 6 rounds of comments. That's how much, sometimes some of these are averaging because of bad design, not meeting codes and whatnot. But we've had at times, I think at least 2 or 3 applicants needing about 6 reviews. Okay, so we're moving on to metrics number 2. While, you know, while we can give you numbers on an initial review, it's hard to answer this question, permit approval time. Because there's so many factors involved in a permit, in any building department, that it's difficult to give you it takes 20 days or whatever. If you give me a perfect application, I can get it to you, we can get it back to you within a month. If we only get about 5% of those every year.
Do you have that, the number on that? How long that takes so that we have a reference?
Yeah, I can tell you right now, the process, it'll come into the clerks. They need about 10 business days to review it. It then goes to the plan room, and our consultant is averaging about 10 business days to do that. So we're at 20 business days already. And then in terms of then processing the paperwork, for the approval, maybe another 5 days. So we're looking at 25 business days.
And what are we looking at if the applications aren't perfect?
And that's what we can't give you a number on because there's too many factors. There's the planning boards. There's the how long is the applicant taking to return the documents to the design professionals taking to give it back to us? As you saw from the previous slide, it could take months for that to happen. So it's hard to say, you know, give you a date on these things. It's just too difficult to say.
So are you not able, I guess there's a part of confusion. So are you not able to, the same way you did with metric number 1, you split it between with plans and without plans? Are you not able to say permits that have to go to the planning board or a land use board, here's their average time, and permits that aren't required to go to a land use board, you're not able to calculate what that average time is?
We can give you an average if you wanted for how long it takes for a plan if it goes to the boards. It could be, you know, what, 3 months sometimes at most.
We have some applications from 3 months that can vary up to 2 years. If the plans requires land use board approvals. And we have some applications that they submit the application with no plans, but after we review the scope of work, we request for the construction documents from engineer or architect. But we can definitely try to separate that with plans and without plans. When we do that, we have to make sure that response time from us and response time from the public, and that shows how long we took to review, how long they took to respond to our objections, if there were any, and overall, how long we took to issue the permit. So metric number 2, it will be in process within 3 different parts. That's gonna be the building department review timeframe, public to answer our objections, and overall permit timeframe for applications with plans and without plans. Thank you.
Matrix number 3. In terms of our permit backlog reduction, we just so you know, we received about 30 applications in total during 2024. While we were able to review all applications, meaning at initial review, again, we were able to issue 1,273 permits. It's about 55% of the applications were permit.
So is that, Councilman Gleason, sorry.
That's okay. So what about prior to 2021? We had both myself and Councilman Potteet had sat down with you guys regarding applications that had been sitting for a while, you know, prior to OpenGov. Where are we with those?
Yeah, prior to when I came in 2021, we had about 800 applications backlogged. As of this January, we're about down to 7 backlogs going back from 2019. Seven applications remaining open. at
Like the number after 6?
That's the one, yeah,
Okay, just making
exactly.
sure.
I'm sorry. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. And you recall, we talked to council and we came up with strategies to do that. Thank you. Percentage of permits processed on time. Again, this had to be a random random selection. We had OpenGov give us 20 applications. And based on the initial review, again, within 7 days, which falls into the 10 days that we generally, I generally give my staff to get this done. Number 5, okay, this, graph shows that, all inspections completion rate in 2024. A total of 2,108 inspections have been conducted in 2024. And this number includes 1,693 inspections scheduled in 2024 and the backlog from the previous years. So, you know, while we did all the inspections of that year, there were also inspections that lagged over from 2023 that we picked up on some of those.
And do we have any that are lagging over from 2024 into 2025?
Yeah, we still have some that are still lagging. Yes.
What does that number look like?
You want a number?
How many inspections are lagging over from 2024 into 2025?
This number shows that all the requested inspections from public, we had at 1,693. We already inspected them. On top of that, we inspected more stuff that was dated back to goes all the way back to 1928. And from 2024, we already up to date with all our requested inspections. However, there are still inspections that needs to be done upon their request. If the contractor requests for the inspection, we go ahead and schedule the inspection. Or if the open permit dates back to 1940 and property owner realize that after the title search, right before they sell their property, they come to us, they schedule the inspection, and we get it done that way. But right now, we are up to date for 2024, based
all
on the
inspections.
requested inspections.
Matrix number 6, please. Okay, this is, you know, this category is, I think, this is providing the biggest challenge for the Department of Building right now. I'll go through some numbers real quick, you know, if you have some questions, but as you know, the state came down, they did a report on us. We've now added in 2024, we added about 1,500 inspections in addition to what we were doing before, 1,500. These are annual inspections. Meaning within a period of the year, we're now hitting us with about 1,500 more that haven't been done for the last 20 years plus. Just to give you an idea of how an inspection works, you spend about, you know, 3 hours doing the actual inspection. You spend about 3 hours writing it and researching it. There are codes involved here, so you have to make sure you got the right codes involved. And about 2 hours in processing time. So we're looking at, for one inspection, on average, about 8 hours. So 8 hours over that annual, over 1,500 inspections, we're looking at about 12,000 hours of man work, right? Or woman work. I have 3 inspectors. So if you split that between them, that's about 4,000 hours of additional work to their normal day, on their normal year. So most likely, these are definitely not going to be done in 1 year. If I had my 3 people working full-time on that, we need at least 2 years to complete something like that, just doing those inspections. So there's a problem there, and that's where we're struggling. We had to bring in some outsourcing to do some of our inspections. Public assembly inspections, we do in-house. Multiple dwelling inspections, we do outside because we just couldn't maintain something like that.
Madam President?
Councilwoman Gleason?
So I just want to be clear here, just so that the public understands. When we're outsourcing, it's at no cost to the city taxpayer, correct? So anybody, any of this outsourcing, they're paying for the inspection and also paying the fee to the city of Mount Vernon. So the city of Mount Vernon is not losing out on the fees, correct? Okay, thank you.
There is, when you pay for, Mount Vernon gets 30% of the cost, right? It was 30%, right? So, no, we get something, but we gotta pay our consultants to do the work. So they're making the 70% off of that fee. So if somebody pays a multiple dwelling, depending on how many units they pay a few $100s for the extra units, $25 per unit. So if you have 10,000, if you have a big building and you have 42 units, you're gonna be paying, according to that. And then we get 30% and the outsourcing gets. 70%.
Right, so when you did your budget this year, you made sure that the numbers that you were looking at revenue wise represent that, correct?
Exactly. Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Can I just interrupt you?
Sure.
I just saw quickly.
Sure.
What's the difference between, I'm sorry, man. The housing inspector versus the building inspector, what's the difference between those two?
Housing inspectors is kind of, they'll inspect units inside of a building, this and that. They are use the housing maintenance code, right? Why, to do that, building inspectors, a little bit more technically savvy. They'll use the international building code, plus the housing code, a number of things. They're looking at the fire code, and they generally are experienced in those areas. In terms of these types of inspections, we do, like I said, we do public assembly inspections, but I only use my building inspectors to do that. I don't believe that my housing inspectors are qualified to do that.
I'm looking at the budget. I see one housing inspector. That's correct?
No, we have 3 housing inspectors.
I'm sorry, one building inspector and 3 housing.
It's 3 building inspectors and 3 housing inspectors.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
All right.
For Councilwoman Gleason?
What are you looking at that you said 1 and 3? Are you looking at the budget?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what it says within the adopted budget online?
No, he has a hard.
Or is that
copy.
an old
Well,
copy?
yeah, you've probably seen that we have it's broken down into a senior building inspector, an elevator / building inspector, and then a building inspector. Those are the 3 categories.
Correct.
So you'll see that.
Correct. I see that breakdown now. Yep, he's right. Thank you.
Commissioner, is the fire department not able to assist with the public assembly inspections?
Generally, how other communities do it, the building department and the fire department does an initial inspection, right? When the project is built or whatever, right? Building department gives them permits, and they give them the certificate of occupancy. So that's the first year. The second year now, most cities have the fire department do these public assembly inspections, because most of it is about fire safety at the end of the day. So right now, this building department, because I know our fire department can't handle that load, is doing both of the, is helping. So we got 3 fire code, fire code personnel, and then my 3 inspectors doing it. But moving forward, after the initial inspection of that, annual inspection by the building department, the hope is that we can fall back now and concentrate on multiple dwellings and other things while the fire department handles the public assembly. That's how most cities do.
So you said they can't handle the load because they don't have the personnel, or?
They have 3 personnel. They don't have the personnel that does the trained personnel that do this.
You can continue. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so understand that public assembly inspections annual and multiple dwelling inspections triannual, which is every 3 years, if my English is right. Heidi, you need to expand on any of this, or we're good?
I just wanna speak about the open permits, open certificate of occupancies and existing violations that goes back before 2021. These permits, certificates and violations, we wouldn't know them and we wouldn't be able to schedule the inspections for them until the property owners, contractors, design professionals, they come to us and they request the inspection. And when we say that we are up to date on our inspections for the last year, we would like to be up to date with all our inspections. However, just today, we have in our department over 11,000 property folders. Out of those 11,000 property folders, 95% of them have open permits, certificate of occupancies not being completed, and violations to be dismissed. Once we get the request from public, then we'll be able to schedule the inspection, conduct our inspection. If the inspection passed, we'll be able to dismiss the violation. We'll be able to finalize the certificate of occupancy and open permits, they will be closed. But it almost looks like it has to be complaint or request from public in order for us to schedule inspections for these applications. But unfortunately, that's the case because property owners or contractors, they don't close the permit if the property owner decide to sell the property. Then they go to a title company, get a title report. That report shows what they need to do in order for them to sell the house properly. And when they get into that point where they have 2 to 4 weeks, they come to building department. We'll do our best to work with them, expedite the inspections, but because of these new inspections that our building inspectors are focused on, it may take longer than 4 weeks. I just want to clear that information for our council and the public.
But the advent of the Laserfish project will help us,
True. As we said earlier, over 11,000 property folders. We don't know what we have in those property folders. Hopefully, we'll have better sense of data after the Laserfish phase number 6 is completed. Then we'll be able to run a report from that system to see how many applications are open for the entire century. Like this can go back to 1910, 1920s, and the same thing goes for the certificate of occupancy and open violations. But right now we are in phase number 1. We hope to get the phase number 6 to be finalized soon. Thank you.
Number 7, please. For matrix number 7, we were looking at code violation resolution time. On average, the completion time from violation issued to violation dismissed is roughly about 61 days in 2024. Prior to 2024, this was running at about 111 days. Okay, on the question 8 was you guys, the council asks about employee productivity. And the end numbers here were the average number of permits per clerk per week. So once we ran through the year, the months, got it down to the weeks for clerks. 4 clerks in the building department handled these permits. They are averaging about 12 permits per week. When it comes to inspectors, they're averaging about 5 per week.
Well, Madam President?
Councilwoman Gleason.
Okay, so, 5 per week, so that's 1 a day?
All these numbers are for 2024 only. So if we have the inspection was done for open permits that goes back to 2023, that number is not here.
Okay,
If we have the application before 2024 that needs to be reviewed, that number is not here. These numbers only for 2024.
okay.
Why?
So I would tell you that I don't know if I would do it like that. Only because that's, like I said, I'm looking at this and seeing that an inspector's only doing 5 a week. I'm wondering, what were they doing for the rest of that time while they're here? So I think that a different perspective, and you guys can correct me, is whatever they're doing within that year,
Mhm.
that I don't think you would need to have to separate it in this section.
So,
So if they did 15 inspections, you could break it out if it, 5 for 2024, 5 for 2022, what have you. I don't want to create more work for you, but putting like 5 down just makes it look, I don't know.
got it.
All right.
We can update that. We were under the impression that we should focus on the permits and inspections for 2024. We can definitely go back and update all other inspections that they did for.
Yeah, I mean,
Maltese.
everything, I'm just focusing on this particular one, the employee productivity, because that I think is inclusive of all applications.
Got it.
Okay, so I don't want to confuse that for any other area.
Okay.
And do we know what, on average, what other communities are doing?
No, we'd have to get that number, but, understand that some communities are set up a little different than us, For instance, I think, New Rochelle, they have about 9 inspectors altogether, I think something like 11 inspectors, that are doing those kind of, their numbers for them. So it's a little different than what we have. We have housing inspectors, we have building inspectors, then we have code enforcement. Everybody across their board is able to do full inspections based on their backgrounds and their training and whatnot. Okay, number 9, code compliance rate. You actually measure the percentage of inspected properties found in compliance with the city codes. So, again, the idea here is that the best way to show you this is to go over these, again, multiple dwelling and the public assembly, as this is occurring right now as we speak. And we started doing these back in February or March of last year, so we have good numbers on this. So using a baseline of 10 of these inspections, all these inspections were done by, again, our outside consultant in terms of multiple dwellings, and all of these inspections failed. I think at the point we had 120 out of the 1,700 multiple dwellings have been inspected, and I haven't seen one that just passed the first time. In terms of public assembly, similar. 62 of the 265, again, understanding that they haven't been done in 15 years, none of them passed.
Councilwoman Gleason?
Yeah, just a recommendation for next month.
Mhm.
That box you could barely see. So I actually had to take a picture and see that it said fail.
Okay.
And I've got glasses on too, so,
I wasn't even trying to.
yeah, I mean, I don't think it has to be that fancy,
All right, okay.
just so that we could see
Mhm.
the metric.
So the true answer to that question is 0. Okay, in matrix twin, the structural safety incidents. We can say that, that in 2024, there have been no structural safety incidences related to improperly permitted or inspected property in the city. So again, 0 on that. In matrix number 11, you asked for the revenue from permits and fines. We gave you a breakdown. As you can see, you can read the numbers for each month, but we ended up, and again, 3.5 mil in revenue for permits, another 445,000 plus in fines. Currently, as of the end of the year, 2024, we brought in about 3.95 mil, and with the absentee landlords and elevator fees trickling in, as they come in all the way up until March, we expect to cross the $4 million threshold this year. And I think no previous building in the history of the department, the highest ever made was 2.5. So basically, DLB has had an outstanding year, which speaks to, again, the work that the administration has done in terms of making developers more comfortable with the process, and they've come to me in many occasions, and they felt that the process was a lot more simpler, and they're getting the permits done quicker through the department. I think October was our highest month, and legalization, stop work orders and such represents fines increasing during from January to May. That's when we most get those.
Madam President?
Councilwoman Gleason?
One of the things I wanted to bring up to you, in addition to what you just said, like I love the fact that we're being friendly to developers, but a majority of the complaints that are coming to council are from our residents, right? And I think that a major continuing theme is they almost feel like they have to come to council to get any movement from the Department of Buildings. And I know that has gotten much better. But I just want to make sure, and the only reason why I'm saying it is because, it's great to be friendly to developers and giving them comfortability. But I also want to make sure we're treating our residents the same way and that they're getting the customer service that we have aspired to get to since the day we started. And I know we've had that conversation several times. Because we're still getting major complaints to city council, and we want to try and mitigate that where they feel comfortable coming to the Department of Buildings and making sure that it's handled.
Well, I am glad that you said it has reduced since, because I've noticed a major reduction in those calls from you, for council, from the mayor, and to my constituents calling me. So I totally think that the numbers have gone down, and we're still working towards getting better at it, right? A lot of the time, understand that now that we have OpenGov, a lot of these things can be checked right online, but so a lot of constituents tend not to look, and they go right to you. But when you call me or somebody, you'll know that a lot of times I say, no, it's right there in OpenGov. It tells them that where it is in the process, and that's why we introduced this system.
But we've also had situations where some people in your department have not followed up on questions.
Oh, yeah. No, that's.
So I think it definitely goes both ways. I mean, there's definitely been a marked improvement. But again, like I said, I just want to make sure that we also prioritize the residents also.
You had a question?
I'll let you continue.
All right, so matrix number 12, Construction's approved with plans by month. And again, you know, when you say construction, we're assuming you mean, you know, drawings with plans, you know, generally, because that's what happens when there's, you know, construction. So we are showing a total of 252 applications with construction drawings. These applications were reviewed from the intake stage, and 59 applications were permitted, and 193 applications are still in review at different stages on OpenGov. It is imperative to note that there were several reviews conducted on these applications. Again, in one or two of the cases, two of them, there was up to 6 reviews, as well as that we are still waiting on the design professionals to answer a lot of objections. Once the design professionals answer these objections, we will issue the permits. 15% of these applications are in the process of getting land use or board of approvals. So, you know, just to wrap it up, 25% have been permitted. The other 75%, which seems like a big number, but, you know, the permit process is not something that, you know, we can control a lot of times. So again, there's other players involved.
Councilman Potteet?
Thank you, Council President. If I could ask if you could bear with me for a second, because I have about 4 different questions or comments. First, I want to commend you for the work you did with the backlog. Indeed, when we first started talking, I believe in 22, it was a very big number. So I'm happy to hear that it's down to 7, which is great. I also want to commend you for the generation of revenue. It's important that we as a city figure out ways to generate revenue besides on the back of homeowners. So the revenue that you create is very helpful. So thank you for that. And then lastly, thank you for tackling the issue on the inspection of public spaces. When that edict came down from the Department of State, or the Secretary of State, excuse me, it was a serious edict. And so the fact that you went at it, didn't complain, but said, let me figure out ways to get this done, was a very large task. So thank you for that too. There's some comments that I have that maybe could be helpful as to how you're looking at your systems. First, getting back to Council President's comment about the applications. I'm not sure why, when you come next month, that you couldn't show us all the applications in the month of January that came in. Obviously that you picked a random sample, that's 20. Looks like that you get about 200 every month. Anyway, for next month, if you come back in late February, that you could say, okay, here's all the applications for the month of February, and here's the data around those applications.
Yeah, for general data purposes, you can do that with the understanding that, you know, there are other factors involved in a lot of those numbers that we're going to give you.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
But just seeing the whole picture would be helpful, right?
Okay.
Because 20 random applications are 20 random applications. Also, if you could, next time, show us a process tree. So application comes in day 1 to the desk. There is a permit on day 45. Who's touching that application and how? If it's possible, showing us a process tree around that, you know, as it goes from one person to the other, who has to sign off on it, it'd be helpful for us to understand how the process works, and why things take longer than we may want them to. Another comment, when you'd mentioned the permitting process, that it takes 98 days, but a lot of that isn't with building staff, it's that you give your comments and the architect or builder may take 5 days, 10 days, 20 days. I mean, you don't really control that.
But there's numbers are showing that the architect themselves are taking about 98 days.
Right.
98 days to turn it around. Yeah.
Right. Is it possible that there could be a training for architects that want it, who would say, or who would know what our process is, That way, if I'm a homeowner and I'm looking at hiring someone, if I hire someone that doesn't know your process, that it's gonna take longer. If there were architects who were then certified with a 1 day or 2 day training, we could make a thought, or we can make a comment and say, you could use any architect that you want, but we think you may want to go with this architect that is
There's-
certified. That
there's
way
a
that
problem.
process could be
There-
quicker with that.
Right. We're not, as a building department, we can't recommend a professional like that. That's the issue. Yeah, we can't recommend another architect.
Could you recommend a few architects? So
Yeah,
let's say that
sure.
4 or 5 go through the certification process. You couldn't say, well, use any one, but you could say these architects have all been certified in our process. You can choose any one of them.
Mhm.
Is that possible, or are you
It's,
infringing on any,
I'd have to run that by the state.
Okay.
Right? Just so, I'll get back to you on that.
just a thought?
Yeah.
To respond to your question, Councilman Potteet, maybe we already did 3 videos, 1-minute videos that shows how to apply for permit, how to choose contractor, and what are the items that they should be checking with their contractor, the license, insurances, and all that stuff. Maybe we can do another 1-minute video, and we'll discuss that tomorrow, how to respond plan examiner report
Right.
and how to choose design professional, because the design professional has to be either licensed engineer or registered architect in state of New York. Maybe we can include that information instead of doing training with every individual.
So that's half of the battle, but as a homeowner, if I pick the wrong design professional, because I'm not watching the city's website every day. I'm in my house, living my life. All of a sudden, I need a kitchen rehab. So then I go to my closest architect that person may or may not know the processes in Mount Vernon. And now I'm gonna blame buildings when it's really on the back of that architect that didn't know what the process was or gave you bad plans.
Right, but in the video, we give you elements to help you choose an architect, right? We tell you he should be licensed. A lot of people don't even, know that. So I think if we do it well, we'll be able to give somebody a criteria on how to choose an architect, how to choose an engineer. And that could help, yeah.
That's fair. That's
Yep,
fair.
right.
2 other quick comments. One, the office move. How's that going? Is it in plan? Is it stuck in the bureaucracy known as City Hall? I mean, how's that? Is
Yeah,
that?
that's right now is above my pay grade, but
Yeah.
I don't know where it is right now.
No
but,
problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Mhm.
And then last question, the
Mhm.
solar panel application.
Mhm.
Has there been movement on that process? Because I know for a second it was, we're overwhelmed.
Mhm.
We don't have the resources, and now we're stuck because we passed a local law.
Mhm.
And now you have a lot of residents coming in saying, I want solar panels.
Right, it was, what happened is initially, yeah, it's a big thing to throw the building department to do all at once, right? But a lot of the applications coming in, while they were meeting the 25 question criteria on unified solar permit, they were common sense things weren't being done. How a solar permit on a roof that's, 90 years old, what's supporting it? We weren't getting information like that. So based on the construction and the age and the spacing to buildings in Mount Vernon, which is not typical, we have to be very careful what we do here. And we got a lot of complaints and this and that, but I wasn't willing to sign off on things unless I knew it was safe. We talked about it, and now we're outsourcing it.
Right.
More now. And even with the outsourcing, they'll tell you, it takes longer to review solar permitting than the general applications, because they're concerned about a lot of the same things. And, we have the fire department reviewing those too, and they're concerned about a number of other issues. So we have to take all those factors into play. And I think while we are improving, it's a process that we're just gonna have to go through. I think now Labella's turning them around in 15 days now? Instead of the 10 generally that they turn around. So it's starting to pick up, but we had a influx since April of about 100 applications that we had to review, and the stuff that was coming in, sir, I can't, it just wasn't, tablecloth stuff,
Got it.
It wasn't good.
And is there an instructional video done for solar panels like the other components?
Yeah, we're trying to do one right now for solar panels. We did it? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
And talking about the strength of the roof, structural strength, and they should be, homeowners should be mindful of that
Mm-hmm.
when they submit. Okay.
Right, because these guys are gonna promise you the world, but are they gonna tell you that your roof can't hold these panels? Sometimes they don't,
Just for clarity purposes, so you're saying that the solar application permit review is taking 15 days?
Mhm.
And the legislation says that it'll be done in 10 days?
Right, because of what we're coming in, we can't meet the 10-day requirement.
So I think that's a conversation that should happen with council, because we may need to adjust
Right.
the legislation, right? And I think rightfully, homeowners are coming in with expectations saying, your law says in 10 days I'll have a permit. And then 2 months later, they still haven't received a permit, right? And that was a bit of an exaggeration, but that's literally the emails that I'm getting, right? Is that my contractor has canceled, said I'm not working with you because everything is confusing in Mount Vernon, right? And that has been consistent. So I think we need to adjust the legislation so that it actually reflects what we are able to do, so that we're not misleading the audience, the constituents, and frustrating them at the same time.
Yeah, no, I'm willing to have that conversation. We put together an additional criteria just to help the solar panel companies, meet our standards, So that's something that we could share with you. And I'm willing to sit down with council and the fire department. I'm sure we'll be willing to sit down and discuss those issues too.
But out of curiosity, isn't this application the same application that you all said was adopted in other municipalities?
Yeah, but we have different, we have different conditions now. We have more fires. It's different. It's not one thing fits all. We have to look at these critically in Mount Vernon. We've had 5 fires in a week? We got to be careful what we're doing here. And the fires here can transfer because of the adjacencies of the properties. It can become a really bad thing if we don't do it right. People are doing, solar panels and with 100 amp systems. What happens when that, it's a fire hazard?
And just to piggyback off of what you're saying, and we all know this, that Mount Vernon is the 3rd most dense city in the state. So our density works against us with these applications. When you have a community like New Rochelle, even, where the homes are somewhat newer, more spaced out, it's easier to put the solar panels on. This issue around structural integrity is a real one. They put the solar panel on 5 years, not even a couple months later, roof caves in.
Somebody gets hurt. Yeah.
And I've had the same comments from fire who said, listen, we are gonna take longer because we are not New Rochelle and how we're built is just different.
Yes.
So just something for council to. think.
So I think the proposal though needs to come from you, Commissioner, right? If you're seeing this, we need to adjust it and set realistic expectations for the public.
Okay.
Okay, but also, presentation is great. Can we move a little bit quicker through some of the metrics?
Sure. So our average response for our online queries, pretty much reached, was about, 3 days it took to get back to customers. Again, if it was working in a perfect world, everybody would go to OpenGov. They'd see the owner has access, the permit, the applicant has access, who's usually the architect or engineer and the contractor. So the information is there. So if we're hoping that people start to use that a little bit more instead of having to call the building department. And metrics number 14, applications received without plans by month. We don't have the totals here, but this chart is pretty much showing that about 53% of the applications that come in are done within 30 days to 30 days to issue permits. But again, the other, 47% has issues. Contractor is not licensed, the insurance are not up to date, so once these things are picked up by a clerk, it has to go back out and they have to, reach out to licensed people or get, and so there's a process that takes to come back to us before we move ahead with that. On the ones with plans, we talked about that again, so I'm not gonna go over that in too much detail, same answers before. Too many factors involved, but as the councilman, requested, we'll try and just give you the numbers next month for what comes in a month and then separate them on where they went at that point. In number 15, time to resolve complaints. Generally, it's taken about 48 days on average to resolve complaints. Majority of complaints originate with tenant and we are waiting for, and then we are waiting for the landlord to respond and fix these violations before we can resolve the complaint in our systems. And then the final metrics, number of safety inspections completed. Again, these are the safety inspections are generally public assembly, multiple dwelling, non-residential. And, the numbers here are based on the fact that we've only had out of the 265 public assemblies in this city that we estimate, we've only inspected about 62. And I think only something around 118 has actually registered. Typically, we cannot go and do an inspection until the owner or of whatever it is, the public assembly space, goes on OpenGov and applies and pays the fee. And we're at a point right now that we have to get more aggressive. We might have to, do violations. The state is watching us on this. And I've reached out to clergy, I've reached out to, large spaces that require these things. On 2 occasions, we've reached out. I've again reached out for a 3rd time. Now we have to violate. So, those are the numbers. We'll take your suggestions in hand, work on these, and get back to you, again, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Council members?
Just quickly, because this week we were CC'd on that email about no heat in a particular building. So I mean, you guys get complaints all the time, but not all complaints are the same. You said 48 days. I would imagine if someone had no heat, it wouldn't be a 48-day.
No,
Right,
no, you're
obviously.
absolutely.
So what is like the process for something like that? Is that considered an emergency or how do
Yeah,
you handle
well,
it?
what we've done in the last month and a half that we initiated, we're staggering people so that we have coverage all the way up until like 9 o'clock in the evening. All right, so I have code enforcement staggered and housing inspectors staggered so that if a heat complaint coming, it's generally going to be later in the evening, right? Understand that what they'll do is they'll look in the systems, contact the that's what we do. We contact the landlord first, give them the opportunity to fix it. I don't want any of my guys going over to certain areas at 9 o'clock at night to look in somebody's boiler. That's probably not safe. That's an issue. So if the landlord doesn't follow up with it by the next morning, then we do a full inspection of the place and move from there. But yeah, the staggering of the system, I think the code says from October to May, I think, you have to you have a certain temperature. So my staggering is going to last during that period to make sure the heat complaints are addressed.
All right, thank you.
Madam President?
Councilwoman Gleason?
Full transparency, I did speak to, Deputy Commissioner Mamek and Director Montez, about what I'm gonna speak to you about right now. We had a major fire on Park Avenue, the other night. With that being said, I drove by, earlier this evening and that building is not secured. It's dangerous inside. Also, it's very cold outside right now. So it will, attract, people to go into the building and take residence there. And I understand that the structure is unsafe. So I just want everybody to be on the same page that whatever resources we have to do to secure that building, that the safety of the residents is, of the utmost importance.
Right, typically, we give the landlord, some time to do this, and then before we move in, if we find a landlord, I don't know this particular one, but, on the other side, when I come to you guys with,
Mike,
this had to be boarded up, this had to be boarded up in an emergency, this is why I come sometimes, because we can't find a landlord.
For this address, I did inform you, Councilwoman Gleason. We spoke with the former owner or the current owner still. We couldn't identify if the house is sold to somebody else. Their lawyer, they've been all informed. By tomorrow, if they don't board up the property, we will speak with Department of Public Works and the legal department, and then we'll take the initiative to secure the property.
Okay, thank you.
awesome. Commissioner Holder, I thank you for coming in and presenting on these metrics. I think I'll talk to council. I saw the email that you sent over about what New York City presents on. We'll discuss the metrics. Some of these things, especially the employee productivity, we want to make sure we have a full picture of it. As Councilman Potteet said, I commend you. The department has made progress in some areas, especially getting to the number after 6, right? I think that is amazing. Getting to your highest revenue, I think that is amazing as well. I don't call you as often, I call DC more often now, right? There's still some issues, and I really want to make sure that we're working through it and making sure that we have some accountability in the buildings department. One thing I would recommend is that we maybe there's random audits done. I don't know if you can identify someone in the office who can just pull random applications. So kind of like how you did the 10 applications, just to see how we can improve our systems, where something went wrong. Because oftentimes, as Councilwoman Gleason said, it's not always that they're not reading OpenGov or that they haven't responded in OpenGov. Sometimes it is the buildings department and we just don't have the answers on why something sat for X amount of time, right? So I think there's work can be done, right? It's our job to give service to the constituents. So I appreciate this and I look forward to you coming back next month and just continuing this dialogue between us and the buildings department.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman.
Have a great night.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the report.
Thank you.
All right. So we have commissioners here who've been here all day. So I want to not go to the tally sheet right now. Councilman Potteet requested that Commissioner Gibson come up with his questions, or you want to know if we have questions for your item? So did we have any questions for Commissioner Gibson that may have been on the tally sheet? I mean, I'm gonna talk about it when it comes up, but I don't have questions.
No, I think, I'm only looking for the explanation on what the amendment is. That's it.
So Commissioner Gibson, can you give us the explanation?
Good evening. So we put in the legislation for the tablets for the in-car computers. And it was based on ARPA funds that were available at the time. And we were in the process, it went through City Council, it went through the Board of Estimates. But towards the end of the year, I was told that it wasn't available for ARPA funds. So we had to find another source. So I went to the Comptroller's office to get this rectified. And I believe we did, but we have to use our funds instead of ARPA funds.
Councilman Box Hill?
I was just curious as for, I think when did we approve that? Sometime in the fall? I
It was in
think?
July.
It was July, okay, it's
Yeah.
summer, okay, so even earlier, what was the delay as far as, actually purchasing the computers?
What was the delay?
Delay, why didn't we order it back in July or the tablets?
No, they
Or-
were ordered back then.
Oh,
It takes time for it to be
Got it.
delivered. So at one point, we had a partial delivery.
okay,
And per our policy, we do not pay for it unless it's in full.
okay,
So that was the delay.
all right, understood. All right, that was my only question, thank you.
Councilwoman Gleason?
So this was an unexpected expense. Hasn't been budgeted for the 2025, for your budget for 2025.
It's coming out of the 2024 budget, as discussed with
Okay, it
Council's-
was, funds that. Mr. Hamilton, would you like to come to the podium, please, if it's okay with the president?
Absolutely, because I was gonna butt in, so I'm grateful.
So I just want to make sure this was money left over in the 2024 budget for the police department that we're using to purchase this?
Correct.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so the only thing that I want to mention, right, is I think that we have to be more diligent. So it's not clear, you know, how this kind of fell through the loop. We went from using ARPA funds to using money in our operating budget. So obviously that's not ideal. So I really hope that the two offices can talk and figure out where it went wrong, because it's kind of finger pointing at each other, right? So that it doesn't happen in the future, especially when we get grant money from the government. But that's my only comment. Great,
Understand?
awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
And go
We
ahead.
have a directed patrol to the fire. Yeah, so we're going every hour.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, just so the public understands, Police Commissioner just said that corner house on, Park and Sydney has a directive patrol. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Executive Director Debbie Burrell, would you like to come up and talk?
Mine's gonna be 3 minutes. Good night, City Council President, City Council Board Member, Deputy City Clerk, and Deputy Corporal Counsel. My name is Debbie Burrell Butler. My back hurts from sitting on.
What department are you from?
My back hurts. Sorry. I'm from the Youth Bureau, Debbie Burrell Butler, Executive Director. I do have agenda item on tonight's agenda, so I just felt like it will help for you to hear a little bit more about the request. There's a few things that I didn't put on the referral letter. I mean, it did hit all the benchmarks that's needed to, but just a little bit of extra information I wanted to add to that. If you recall, last year, we did a presentation in the memorial room with some of the young men and ladies that, no, it's actually was in here, that attended one of the college tour that we host each year through the Ready for Life program, which is a federally granted program. We're currently in our 5th year. Year to date, including this 27 kids that we're about to take during the winter break, it will give us a total of 95 youth that we have taken out the state to college tour. And so, yeah, it's pretty dope. And the best thing is it costs the city $0. That part, yeah. So thank you. So $0 where the kids get the full benefit, where they go to colleges and have firsthand college life experience. They get to see and meet and greet facilitators, admissions, administrators, some of the kids that actually attend there, and network and try to have like a friend before even going to these colleges. Sometimes it could be a bit of a culture shock, you know, being in and living with your parents, and then now you kind of like on your own. Some of the kids we find out that actually goes to college, apply to college and never visit these colleges. And so we found out doing this actually helped them make their decision. This trip that we're going during the winter break, we are planning on visiting Bennett College, Hampton College, Maryland Eastern Shore University, and North Carolina A&T University. 4 colleges. The trip is fully paid for. They have no expense. We will feed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and transportation. So they're staying in hotels. Some of our kids never stayed in a hotel before, so that's always a good experience for them as well. And so, as my mission and vision states, and it's actually in my specs, I'm supposed to collectively, as a Youth Bureau Executive Director, along with my team, we're supposed to expose, educate, and empower. And this college tour is one of the things that we do to do exactly those 3 things that I mentioned. And so this will be provided free on the city's, no city dime, but through the grant that's called Ready for Life program. And so, yeah, I think I did that on the 3 minutes. Any questions or concerns?
I think she's sick of me tonight.
Oh,
How do I
no.
get to go?
Tell you what, I have to write back for this grant. It's highly competitive. It comes out in March. And when I do write it and get it, because God willing, I'm going to try to get this, the next one, you're on, chaperone. You ready for us? 4 nights
That's fine.
with high school kids.
I want to come next time.
All right. We got
No, I'm
witnesses.
serious. I really do. I really want to experience that.
All right, we got witnesses now. So she's coming on the next one. Y'all have to approve that.
It'll be this year, right?
Well, I would have to change the rate and everything because we're taking this one next 3 weeks.
Well, it's on her dime, so she could go.
All right, I'm not going on that one. No, but it's really and truly a great experience.
We have
and
our own
I
budget.
also, so with the 25, 27 high school youth, we have 7 chaperone. And I also get to interact with the youth. I really don't get to do that too much anymore, but I also get to evaluate my staff too, for particularly that program. So it's a win-win situation.
Awesome. Council members, any others?
Yeah.
You can't come. I'm sorry, I'm just messing with you. I'm sorry.
I think it would benefit council to really see what like one of these grant funded trips is like, honestly, because I think it makes it easier for us. I mean, not that we say no for something that's free, but I would also like to witness what they witness.
So this actually, that's a good point, right? So, are you saying collectively when we do have trips, because we tend to have a lot of trips throughout various programs, that I should, prior to say confirm, ask the city council body if you guys wanted to come and chaperone? I mean, okay,
Just send Caitlin.
just,
Just
no, you know.
not
you
to-
come,
I'm a
you're the chair.
lifer.
I'm just saying,
Well,
I'm here
I
4
would
yeses,
say
I'm waiting for the
at
5th one.
least,
Oh, okay. I'm just,
at least, to, account for at least 1 council person.
okay. Noted. Okay, cool. Money man? Okay. Listen, I'm trying to spice up your night because it's long. You're more than welcome. Any questions or any other
No,
concerns?
I believe council president's paying for your dinner tonight, so.
Oh,
Gladly. Gladly. The money man is right there. Tell him to take care of you. All right. So I do want to say, Executive Director Burrell Butler, and for the council, really, I attended today a press conference that was put on by the executive director, and it's just really, you just warm my heart, right? I think the whole youth bureau, you guys do amazing things, right? Things
Thank
that the
you.
city can be proud of. And today they partnered with Montefiore to send 24
thank
of our young
you.
girls to the
Appreciate
healthcare
that.
academy, right? And it's really about exposure to the healthcare industry, and not just nurses and physicians they talked about, but all the other ancillary positions. And it, the girls were nervous, they always
Yeah.
are, but it's exciting, right? And they all came ready to give a speech, and it was just a really heartfelt moment. So I want to commend you for doing that work, for always putting our youth first, for your amazing staff, who's trying to get free dinner back there. I think the comptroller's office is confused. They were raising their.
Yeah, I saw that.
But, please keep up the good work and.
Thank you. I appreciate the love and the support and the encouragement. It's not always easy.
All right,
Right.
awesome.
Anything?
I think sorry, Councilman.
Just one thing for the youth bureau, because, you know, since I was a child and a part of youth bureau, it has expanded so much. You know, it was only about 10 years ago when I was in it.
I thought it was
And,
5, but
yeah,
okay.
somewhere around there.
To be clear, he has not grown up.
But it's just a very nice thing that the youth bureau, y'all are always thinking outside of the box and getting our children indoors where they never would have thought they could be in. So it's a great opportunity for them. That's why I'm always pleased to put anything y'all need on the agenda, because it's a blessing for our children in this community who don't usually get outside of this community
Yeah.
and partake in those things. So, also one day this year, maybe we can do it for Black History, I don't know. But one day this year, we'll, probably have the entire youth bureau come together, and maybe we can make some food together and have a great time.
Oh, yeah.
All right?
Would it be after 4:31? Cause you know, the rum cake. the
That's fine.
sour-
I got
okay.
you.
All right. you
We'll
know,
make something
I'm just
happen.
trying to make sure
Yes.
we're in compliance.
So thank you all so much for what y'all do.
Thank you.
Awesome. You good?
Okay. you.
Council, we can actually move into the tally sheet unless you all need a break. It's been a long night. Sure, let's take a 1-minute break, please. It doesn't appear so. All right, we're gonna start that again. We're
Okay.
back. Legislation and Public Works.
Thank you, Madam President. Item number one, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and chief of staff to attend the National League of Cities Congressional City Conference in Washington, DC. And that, I was confused with this, but this is a different date than what we previously passed?
So the last one was wasn't it for
It wasn't the
NICOM?
Congressional City. Yeah, so this is from March 10th to March 12th. That is on the agenda. Item number two is from the last agenda, Department of Public Works, an ordinance authorizing the lease agreement for office space at 6 Gramerton Avenue, Suite 203, Mount Vernon, New York, 10550. That's agenda pending. I wanted to speak to the comptroller about that. Item number three, Public Works, Department of Public Works, an ordinance establishing a list of qualified environmental sustainability consultants. That is on the agenda. Item number four, Water, Board of Water Supply, an ordinance authorizing the addition of a position of water resource specialist to the lead service line replacement program. That is on the agenda, but hold on a second. I just want to make sure I get this one right. This is grant funded, this position. Item number five. Board of Water Supply, an ordinance authorizing the addition of the position of new water quality analyst position. And that is coming out of what they budgeted, and that is on the agenda. Both are on the agenda. That is it, Madam President. I don't see any add-ons.
Thank you. Council members, any questions for Councilwoman Gleason? I have three. For item number three, why exactly are we doing this? Why do we need to create a formalized list?
That's a good question. We went out for a request for proposal for,
It was a request for qualifications, I believe.
hold on. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. I mean, so my fear is that we create this formalized list and then they think they don't have to follow procurement, and that's not the case.
Ah,
All right. Okay, so I'll look forward to that. And then for item number 4 and 5, why are those starting at step 4 and not 1?
I can ask that question also.
That's all I have for you. Thank you. Human Resources?
Thank you, Madam President. I have item number 6 from the Youth Bureau, an ordinance authorizing 8 staff and 27 youth to attend the City of Mount Vernon's Youth Bureau Ready for Life HBCU College Tour, which is scheduled to take place from February 18th through February 21st, 2025, and that's on the agenda. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Thompson. Public Safety and Codes?
Thank you, Council President. Item number 7 from Consumer Protections for information purposes only, monthly report for December 2024. Item number 8 from Public Safety, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Interaction Insight Corporation for the renewal of the NICE Inform V and plan for the police department. That will be on the agenda. Item number 9 from Public Safety, a amendment to ordinance number 14, from July 10th, 2024, City Council meeting regarding entering into a contract with SecureWatch 24 for the purchase of 21 mobile computers. That will also be on the agenda. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Public Safety and Codes?
Madam President, if you would, please give me the opportunity. It has nothing to do with these items, but a request that I would like to make of public safety and codes.
Sure. Before you do that, though, can we see if we have any questions on these items?
Sure.
So only question is, and it's really not for you, Councilman Potteet, it's really for the law department. Item number 2 says it's a renewal. Does the original contract call for a renewal? It looks like there's a whole new contract attached. And does that follow the procurement policy. Item number 8, sorry. Okay. All right, so, Councilwoman Gleason, you can go ahead. I apologize.
Okay, my request, at the end of, I think it was mid-November, I had composed a letter, to the police department, and you could speak to, our legislative aide regarding an update and statistics on the wellness unit, and also, police reform. We did not get it out, to the police department because of some other circumstances. So if you, the letter is already constructed by Antoinette. If you could just review it, and if you have any additions, just please send that over, because we have not gotten a report regarding police reform. We're coming on 3 years. So they're supposed to give us one, I think once a year, annually. So we haven't gotten one.
Sure. Question, was the ask or was the request put in?
No,
Or
it was
at
not.
this-
All we
at
did
this
was,
letter?
all I did was, put the letter together. We did not put the request in.
Got it.
Thank you.
The request for the police reform report has been made several times, though,
Verbally or in writing? Just curious.
verbally.
Oh, yeah, verbally and via email.
Got it.
I'm sorry. Yes, verbally and via email, and that's why, we were putting it on paper.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay. Awesome. Any other questions for public safety and codes? Finance and planning?
Okay, that's me. Thank you. Madam President, number 10. Office of the Controller and Ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement with the U.S. Department of Transportation to receive a 1 million innovative finance and asset concession grant. That's going to be on the agenda. Number 11, I still had some questions about this one. Industrial Development Agency, an ordinance establishing hotel occupancy tax within the city of Mount Vernon, New York. Madam President, you had, kind of spearheaded this, I think, before.
No, so I was working on this. I
You were
didn't
working on
realize-
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
the IDA is working on it.
Oh, okay.
But I'll let you ask your question. What's your
So,
question?
I guess what my first question was, I couldn't tell by the letter if, do we currently have a tax? I know we wanted,
No,
so there's none at all. And
no,
we're
we
gonna-
don't have
we
a
want to start
hotel.
it up
We don't have
at,
an occupancy
at
tax.
the 5.8%, okay. 2, is this a typo in this letter, or are we, it says effective date as January 1st, 2024. Is that retroactive to last year? Is that the intention?
I would have to ask you. I don't know.
I haven't spoken to, Director Mack, and she said she was unavailable for tonight, so, yeah, those
I
were
mean, perhaps she meant January 1, 2025.
probably, just, I see it twice in this letter, so, all right. I mean, is this something that needs to be passed this week, or?
Well, first of all, it's a request for a local law, so we couldn't pass a local law tomorrow, even if we wanted to. But one of the things, first, I would love to have the discussion with council, right? If 5.8 is what we want to do.
Right,
The only other municipality doing that is Yonkers.
and I think New York City.
Potentially, let me see, I can just pull up a chart right now. Right, so that's one of the questions, right, is are we comfortable with that number? Another thing is, we actually don't have the authority to do this on our own, so we need to make a request to the state legislature to do it. And then we have to go through that whole request a home rule reply once they pass the bill. So these things should really be pulled or adjusted to reflect the actual process. It's very similar to what happened with the transfer tax. All right, and I think like some of these things need to be caught in the referral meetings so that they can be adjusted appropriately.
And this would affect Airbnbs as well, I mean.
So the legislation that I was working on was
Yes.
gonna affect all short-term rentals, hotels, et cetera.
This mentions short-term rentals as
Yeah,
well.
so Airbnbs fall under the short-term
All right.
rentals.
I mean,
So I'm sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead.
So what are we gonna do with this? Are we holding it? Because this letter doesn't seem sufficient to the request of, like, city council would have to accept a request to send it up to Albany, correct?
So no, what city council needs to do, well, I'll let the law department speak to it first, on process, and then I can jump in. Yeah. Can we get a mic for DC? No, it's not plugged in.
Sorry about that. My mask is not helping. But as was already mentioned, that this process will have to go up to the state legislators. We make a request for them to allow this if we're gonna pass this on our side, and ask them as if they would do it. It'll go through both sides, the legislature, and they can decide to allow this if we come across this.
So I guess initial question is do we want to do the 5.8? Right, and if we do we want a resolution prepared for us to send and make a request to the state legislature?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I mean, for going to 0 to be the highest in the region, I mean, not the region, in the Westchester, that's kind of like a lot. But has there been any analysis done as far as how many like how much revenues it's going to bring in? You know, like how much does this affect? How many Airbnbs are there now? How many hotels? Do we have any hotels in Mount Vernon? I mean, that one, right? Is that it?
So with regards, I'm almost 100% sure that no one will be able to provide us the data because we weren't regulating short-term rentals until we just passed that short-term rental legislation. And if I was a betting woman, I would probably say we haven't even started regulating it since we passed the legislation. So we wouldn't have the number. We can try to pull it from different other municipalities, see if they have it. Like we know Yonkers has it on the books, but there are municipalities all over. I actually had the attorney, she put together a graph, and I can share it on just some different municipalities that have it and see what's in their budget.
Right. I mean, but if an Airbnb is paying state tax, then this has to be a way to know their location and where they're paying it from, because there's a different rate per each municipality, essentially.
Say it again.
If they're paying taxes, if you rent an Airbnb, part of the fee is the room rental plus taxes and fees. They all pay taxes to the state. So there'd be a way to know their location if they're situated in Mount Vernon. How many Airbnbs were paid X amount of dollars in state taxes to? I guess you can back into that number. There's a recording of it somewhere. I guess how to get the information is a question.
That is a question. Councilman Potteet?
You know, we every year talk to homeowners who are frustrated with us continually raising property taxes. And the stat that homeowners bring up, and I believe many of us are homeowners here, is property taxes have gone up 20% in 3 years. So I felt justified having the highest taxes for Airbnbs and hotels in the county, because anything to give relief to our homeowners makes sense to me. I was just on the Airbnb website. Looks like there's about 10 or 11 Airbnbs in Mount Vernon currently, as well as the one hotel around here.
So everybody's good, we're good with the 5.8 is what I'm hearing. Well, no, I hear two different opinions. Any thoughts from right side?
We have any idea? I didn't see Rochelle mentioned.
I think everyone is 3, if I'm not mistaken.
No, everyone is in 3. There's, based on the data that, hold on, give me 1 second. I can pull it up. I have a chart. Based on the attorney's research, Jesus, the internet keeps cutting me off. Commissioner Perez, if you're online, the internet keeps cutting me off. Geez.
It says 3% New Rochelle, based on that slide that Director Mack sent us. It was 3% White Plains, 3% New Rochelle, and countywide 3%, and City of Yonkers is 5.785%. Based on the slide that Robin sent us.
Sorry, I'm just,
But also be mindful as we compare ourselves to other municipalities, that no other municipality in Westchester is strategically located where we are. So we do deserve the right to have more income coming in.
And I'm not saying no to the 5 either.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ed makes a great point that this might be a good compromise, for the homeowners, So
Absolutely.
so based on cities, from the chart that our attorney sent over, based on the cities, there's 5 cities with a 3% tax. There are 4 cities with a 5% tax. And then there's some other amounts like 2.44 to 5.87, which is Yonkers. And then for towns, there's towns that have it at 8%. I mean, have it at 5%. There's 8 towns that have it at 5%. And these are only what the attorney reviewed. And then there are 5 towns that have it at 3%. So it varies, right? Overall, it looks like a 50-50 split between the municipalities, in between 3 and 5. And Yonkers was based on the one she reviewed, was the only one. So maybe New York City does have a 5.875
So,
tax.
I mean, what would be the downside of going higher then? I mean, being the higher, I don't see any now. I'm thinking about it. I mean, if it's there, what is the downside of? I mean, is it going to deter folks from renting in their homes as Airbnbs? That's the only problem. I don't know.
All right, cool. So looks like you're on board for 5.8.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. No.
Okay,
So-
so I guess the directive here is, what we need to do is actually switch this from a local law. And I actually have a draft local law that I could share, but switch it to a resolution requesting the state legislature to approve or authorize us to instate a occupancy tax. And if you want, I can share the local law. And we did this previously with the speed cameras. I wasn't here for that one. We did it with the speed cameras, I think with the, there was something else, the red light cameras. So you can use those as a reference.
And that referral letter referring to January 1st, 24. Is that? I doubt that's correct.
Yeah, we don't have to do 2024.
That's it here? It does it? Yeah, just because it was referred to twice in the letter at 2024. All right.
All right, Deputy Corporation Counsel, you good on that?
Yes.
Joe? All right, cool. All right, you can continue, Councilman.
So we're saying on the agenda with the,
The resolution, not the local law, yes.
okay. All right, number 12, from the Law Department, an ordinance to authorize the conveyance of 0 Vernon Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York to Myrtle Jones, and to authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. This is gonna be on the agenda. And number 13, from the City Council, resolution to formally request a home rule from the New York State Legislature to increase tax on transfer tax fees. That's on the agenda. This was approved by the council, I think, back in 2023, and it needed to be a local law amendment. So that's why it's back. So that's all the items I have.
Any questions for finance and planning?
Can you just give me one second? I just want to review something first before I.
from the law department standpoint, is there a way to capture beforehand, these laws that actually need to go to the state legislature first before we adopt the laws locally?
Let me think about that and talk about that. It seems that we've, I guess from well, the homeroom perspective, we kind of lumped them together. Let me review what you said. That's a good point. Okay, we'll talk.
Cool. Councilman Gleason, is your second over or? Okay, you no longer have a question?
It's item number 12. So I think this question really is for the law department. Are you familiar with item number 12, and can you speak to what happened with this piece of property?
I personally can't, Corporation Counsel dealt with it, but as I read the information that he has there, it seems that this particular property had 2 parcels. And when it came time to paying on the taxes, it initially wasn't paid. And then when the payments came, it was for 1 parcel and not the other. The homeowner lost them both. The payments were then made and 1 parcel came back, but not the other side. And it seems that the title company did make the payment. They corrected that and sent the payment. And ever since, that homeowner has been waiting to get the property back. And there's been a variety of reasons that has nothing to do with the homeowner that it didn't occur. So she's sitting there waiting.
And both lots are paid in full. We're 100% on that.
That's my understanding, yes.
And how so we are going to convey this property over. Are the lots going to be merged in any way, or you don't know that?
I don't know that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, well, looks like that concludes tonight's meeting. And we'll be back again